Hey, what's going on? And welcome back to the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast. Your host, Tomas Keenan, coming at you guys today from the office and in the podcast studio. I've got a special guest today, Mr. Rich Moyer. Him and I were just chopping it up. He's on the East Coast, which is coming after me right there. You know, born and raised in New York right here. So East Coast is where it all began for me. And I spent a lot of time down in North Carolina as a kid too, which is pretty cool. So, dude, welcome to the show. I've got questions upon questions for you. You've got some cool things going on. You've been super successful in life business, and I kind of want to dive in and see what you should tick and what makes what you got going on today with this new franchise you've kicked off and is taken off pretty well. I want to know what made that a reality in your life. So, give me some of the background. You know, where did it start? How'd you get into business? What gave you that initial the want drive, the itch to go after business? We all know if we're a small business owner or a business in general, if we go down that route, there's usually a screw or two loose in our heads.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So originally from upstate in Pennsylvania, Northeast PA, so close to New York for sure. And just grew up very athletic, very competitive, older brother, and definitely, battled him in sports growing up. So just always had that kind of knack of wanting to win and not lose, and back against the wall, you always found a way. Got into high school, fell in love with golf, went to Myrtle Beach out of high school, got in the golf industry, became a Class A PGA pro, was a club professional, and started to really realize, from my members, like all these guys were either in sales or they own their own business. And I was like, man, I'm on the wrong side of the counter. I'm over here working and serving you guys during the holidays and the weeks while you're out here playing golf with clients. And I was like, how do I get out of this position? And started to ask them, and ended up finding somebody that owned a golf course here in Charlotte, North Carolina. He gave me an opportunity, got me into sales with one of the members at his courses. Sales led me to start my first company in 2014. And yeah, like you said, you kind of got to be different. You got to have a couple screws loose. I started that company at 26 years old with really no money. Left the job. I was making over $100,000 a year. My family was like, man, you're crazy. And grew it very rapidly. Did 1.8 million my first year, 3.6 my next year, 6.5 after that, and sold it for multi-millions 2 months into my fourth year of business. And kind of the rest is history. I've owned, operated, exited, failed multiple companies, and still own a good bit and franchising across the country.
Yeah. So on that first one, and that's rapid growth, clearly, you were doing your thing. What was the product or service that you guys were selling or offering? And was it something that you were passionate about, or was it just a good opportunity that you saw in front of you?
Yeah, I think I'm not really passionate. If you look at the brands I actually own, I'm not really passionate about any of those, right? The passion is really the people. And yeah, the first company was, I was just a broker of services. So I was a sales team for smaller contractors that couldn't sell themselves in the construction world for high rises, hospitals, hotels, multifamily projects around North Carolina, South Carolina. I did some work in Texas. And the passion was not construction. I didn't know anything about construction. The passion was, how do I take this crew of 5 where the owner is involved and he's the one actually doing the work, and make them another $400,000 a year? And that was the passion. How do I uplift the people around me and make them better? So the passion was, man, definitely the people. The stress in construction wasn't worth the money. So that's why one of the bigger reasons I ended up selling it. But yeah, everybody's like, man, you're not passionate about beer. You're not passionate about ice cream. You weren't passionate about construction. What ticks? What makes you drive? What gets you out of bed in the morning? And I've been through some life events and lost my baby brother at 2.5. And your perspective on life really changes when you go through something like that. And just being able to uplift the people around me, whether if they're in my immediate circle or my employees, or just people that reach out to me from other states or around the country that look for mentorship.
Yeah. Love it, man. Speaking of mentorship, you've done some cool shit, golf PGA pro at this point in your life, and you've got some successful businesses and whatnot. What was the mentorship and or coaching like leading up to those successes for you?
So early on in the golf days, or when I started my first company?
Yeah, let's hear both of them.
Yeah, I think early on in the just golf days, right? It's in sports in general. Golf's one of the hardest sports that you can play because every day is different. It's hard as hell, but it teaches you a lot about yourself when you're on the golf course. And I think just being around successful people in the golf industry and seeing how they operate and how they move and the relationships they built, and just the relationships that I got to build and shake hands with people that if I wasn't in the golf industry, maybe I would have never met them. So I think the golf industry, less of mentorship, but more of opening my eyes to the realization that there's a lot more things to do in this world than what society tells us to do. And then business wise, I was fortunate enough. One of my favorite mentors, an older guy, he helps me invest in commercial real estate, and he's just close to a billionaire now, but he just kind of tells me bigger picture, long term, and understanding that people always want that quick flip or that quick dollar, and that's not what it's all about. And then my mentor that helped me start my first company, he really just opened my eyes to one, believing in myself. I think a good mentor is really just a really good cheerleader. They can help you avoid some things, but you're kind of traveling through opening your business, even if it's the same business, is going to be completely different than your mentors, because just times are different, and what you're going to struggle or go through is going to be a little bit different. So that mentor really just was like, here's the picture, right? There's ways to make money in this world. Open your eyes. And it really just came to that. And then I'd say my biggest mentor growing up was definitely my younger brother. He taught me more in 2.5 years than anybody has in 36. And then my father has always said, shake hands with everybody. You never know who you're going to meet. And that's something that you can take along, and you're one handshake away from being successful, I always say.
Yeah, that's the truth, man. That is so true. So what happens now when you run into an issue in your business ventures that is above and beyond what your current mentors help you with? How do you go out and find that help?
Yeah, back against the wall, you always find a way. I think I learned that in the construction industry when a client would be like, hey, can you do this for me? And I'd lie my ass off and I'd say, yeah, I'll knock that out for you. And then I turn around and say, all right, now I got to find somebody that knows how to do this, that's smarter than me, and then vet them to make sure that they can actually do it to the caliber that it needs to be done. So I learned that early on at 26 to 29, that there's always somebody out there smarter than you that can do it. It's just finding that person. And as you build and you have maybe 10 plus years of a Rolodex, I can always make one phone call and usually have somebody that can help me out.
Yeah, man, that's the truth. And it's also that aligns with making sure you shake hands with everyone you meet, because you may meet someone today at an event, at a bar, at a party, whatever it may be. And, oh yeah, I met that guy and he handles XYZ. And at the time you're like, I have no use or need for that whatsoever, but I'm going to keep this guy's info, because you never know. And then 6 months later, 9 months later, a year later, it's like, oh shit, I actually need so-and-so that I met. And you're like racking your brain. You're like, man, I know I met this dude like a month ago, and now it's time to hit him up and make things happen. And you don't know where it goes from there, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. You're spot on.
Yep. Love it, dude. So North Carolina, what's the draw there now? You got family, you got a house there. What's it like?
Yeah. So moved here, like I said, moved here in 2012, started my first company in 2014. It just became home after that. I didn't want to move back to PA in the cold. Ended up meeting meeting my girlfriend in 2017 while I was building my first tap room, and we ended up, obviously we're married now. We have a 9-month-old. My family moved down about the same year that I sold my construction company, and fortunate that my brother and nephew got to move down shortly after that, 2 years after that. So the whole family's here, and yeah, I love the city. It's got a ton of opportunity. Weather is great. Nothing really to complain about.
Yeah, man. And I totally feel you with that cold weather crap. I'll tell you a quick funny story. I moved down here September 2020 from New York, right? New York to Dallas. And we get down here, it's getting a little bit cooler. It's the fall, and like the fall here is just not the fall in the Northeast. It's way different because it goes from like hot to like, this is pretty nice, to holy fuck, what happened? It's freezing. We got nailed down here. My first winter, we had like 3 inches of snow, and it iced the roads over for a full-blown week, and we had no power. We were running out of like natural gas was not that prevalent or available. It was a rough 3 days in my home. We had I think on the first of the second of the cold, it was 36 degrees in my living room. Like, it was ridiculous. I was like, this is crazy. So the moving trucks come to my house in New York and loading everything up. And the last thing that they're loading up is my garage, right? And me being in the auto industry for years, just having tools everywhere and crap and whatnot. And I've got like snow shovels in the corners by the garage doors. I see these guys load up the moving truck, and they're like, hey, we're going to put these snow shovels on. And I was just to tell them, hey, yeah, don't worry about those, because I'm not going to need them anymore. Well, they made the trip down to Dallas, and sure as shit, that first winter we were here, I had to shovel my driveway.
That's crazy. That's the bad part about these states is that these cities, if they do happen to get it, I mean, we get it here like once every 5 to 6 years. I'd say we get some snow, usually lasts a day.
Yeah.
They're not prepared for it. They get a little flurry and they shut everything down.
Yep, they do, man. It's wild, so different. Let's talk about the new venture. You got some franchise stuff going on here, which opens up a whole other can of worms in business. Tell me about, the tap rooms and what you got going on here with, and like what the overall goal is and who you're looking to work with.
Yeah, Hoppen's a very high-tech self-serve beer, wine, cider, seltzer, cocktail tap room or bar. So we're driven with 60+ self-serve taps. We also have full cocktail bars. And then it's experience driven. So completely different than your traditional bar, completely different decor vibe. And we're franchising across the country. We have 11 in development, 5 of them will open this year. And then we have another about 6 that'll be signing on in the hopefully coming weeks. And the goal is to have about 20 to 25 signed this year, and then an additional 20 to 30 next year, and then get to a point where we have 40, 50 open and another 50 in development. So
all right,
go ahead.
Go ahead. I got questions. Go ahead. I'll let you roll.
We started in 2017, started franchising in September of 2022. And we are, taking it at a slow pace early on, just because it's super important in franchising to have the right franchisees early on, and then also not grow too fast where you can't support them.
Mm-hmm. Yep, totally. And I see that in small business so often. People wind up growing too fast, or they have a good service or something that I've seen in the marketing space or the automation space a lot, where these guys are really good at rolling out detailed systems and processes for people. And they're not cheap. They're hitting people 20, 30, 40, 50 grand out of the gate. And they'll sell a guy. They'll do a great, phenomenal job for them. They'll sell another guy. And then now all these people are saying, oh, go use Johnny over there because he's the best. And he's gladly taken all of the money in deposits. And all of a sudden, since he's the only person on the team, or maybe he's got a VA works for him, they can't fulfill for shit. And they piss everybody off. It's a dangerous trap. And that right there is definitely a way to grow too fast. So
sounds like
you mentioned that. Not a lot of people think about it.
Yeah. Sounds like the construction world.
Oh yeah. See it there too. So I got questions about Hoppen, right? From a technological nerd standpoint, how does this self-serve shit work, and what are the legalities around that if you don't have a server there on staff?
Yeah, so we'll always have a team. There's always staff there, but when you check in, we'll check your ID, make sure you're legal age, give you a wristband. The wristband's attached to your credit card. So that is basically your tab. And each state's a little bit different, but in North Carolina, you're allowed 32 ounces of beer, 12 ounces of wine. So basically 2 drinks per setting per se. So if you went to a traditional bar, you walked up to the bartender, said, hey, give me 3 vodka waters. So he'd be like, I can only give you 2. You got to have another person. It's no different. When you give a wristband, you have 2 drinks on that wristband. Once you exceed the limit, it's very easy for our staff to just scan their card. You scan your wristband on any one of our 60+ taps, and you'll have another 2 drinks instantly. So the legalities is actually safer, right? Because we have one-on-one experience of, imagine a full bar with 20 people deep, and you're hammered drunk, and you're like, yo, give me a drink. And the bartender's so busy, they just flip you one. Ours, you actually have to go find somebody. It's a one-on-one experience. Our staff can say, hey, you need to, chill out for a little bit, get some water, or we'll reload you. So I think insurances have come and they actually visit us to get a better understanding when we first opened, because it wasn't as known. And now as we're growing, it's becoming a little bit more popular. Self-serve is, whether it be a smaller concept or one like ours.
Yeah, cool. So I'm assuming that you got some self-serve station or rack with all the taps and stuff. They come, they scan, probably an RF chip or something in the wrist strap. It automatically calculates bills to their card and whatnot, and they can just go and serve and go from there. Like and how many people typically would, from a team perspective, would staff a location during a day or a busy day?
Yeah, full staff for the whole week. I mean, for the whole business, we have like 8 to 12, depending on the location and how busy it is. So you'll have 2 to 3 full-time employees. The rest are all part-time that you pay $3 an hour or whatever the minimum wage is that are allowed to pay. And then on a given Saturday, when we're open from 12 to 1 or 12 to 12, we'll have anywhere from 6 to 8 employees, depending on the time of year and how busy we know it'll be. So very minimal staff. And for the most part, they're there to create the experience, make sure that you're having a good time.
Yeah. So let's talk about the experience, because that's one of the key pieces you've mentioned a couple times to me. Is like we're all about the experience, and I love it, right? Because I think customer experience is key in any business or any transaction. But tell me about what is the ideal customer experience that you guys are trying to create that are going to create those raving fans coming back and want to have that experience over and over again, and bring friends and family and like, oh, come on down, you're in town, you got to see this really cool place that we've been going to.
Yeah. So we strive on being the ultimate host. The bulk of our sales come from that 21 to 35-year-old, but we also push heavily on the revenue stream through corporate events. So we do get that with corporate events when they're 35 to 65 years old. They come in for a corporate party, and then they're like, oh, I got to bring my kids back here on the weekend, or I got to bring my coworker here after work. So there's a mix of both, but the experience is the ultimate host. Just really, when you check in, it's a different experience than you go to any traditional bar, because you have to get checked in, you have to get a wristband. Our team jokes around with you. They'll always have some type of fun environment. They'll take you over to the tap wall, show you our glassware. You get to pick any glass that you want, and then we'll have somebody on the tap wall that explains the system to you. But prior to even coming into our door, our goal is to market to you a crazy experience digitally, and then when you step into your door, what you saw digitally, it actually happens when you come in. Once you get to the tap wall, our team's there. They'll explain the system, they'll explain the tap room, they'll explain the entire space of what you can do, what games we have in there, whether it's darts, cornhole, putting outside, Scrabble on the wall. So the experience there is just more hands-on. And then if you've never poured a beer, which a lot of people that walk into our doors have never poured a beer, they'll show you how to pour. They'll explain the system as far as, what kind of beer do you like? And our team will kind of help gauge of, try this, try that. And the system's really neat because you can pour 1/10 of an ounce all the way to a full glass. So that's the experience side of it. And then when you're, walking around and hanging out, it's very casual, laid back. It's almost like your friend's house, and you get to go to the cooler and grab a drink at any point yourself. And so people are like, well, what are your team doing? Well, we're always constantly walking around, picking up glassware, cleanliness, making sure the space is clean. And then we're always checking on customers as we're walking around. And we always have somebody at the beer wall in case something goes, if a keg kicks, or if somebody doesn't know how to pour beer and they pour foam. So the experience portion there is just, our staff's goal is to provide the experience. Our staff's goal is not to just flip drinks behind the bar, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, love it. So you guys serving food as well?
So I grew up, my parents owned restaurants, or were in the restaurant industry their entire life. I always said I would never do food. So what we do is we drive, one of the biggest things we do is work with the community, whether if it's with local food partners or local breweries or supporting local foundations. And always partnered with local food trucks. At our first location, we partnered with a local restaurant that is right next door. There's a QR code you can order. They bring it over to you, bring it right to your table. So the goal is to work within the community, whether you can fit a food truck on your space or near your space, or you can work with a local restaurant to provide the food. And then for another revenue stream, we'll take a percentage of every item that goes through our tap room.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. So here's a question, just out of curiosity, because I don't know the regs like you do. Are there some states where you have to serve food in order to have a liquor license?
Yep. Yeah, there's some, like South Carolina, if you want liquor, if you just want beer, wine, you don't have to do food. But if you want liquor, you have to have some type of food menu. And they're all a little bit different. So we can create a small food menu, and whether if you sell a sandwich or don't sell a sandwich, it really depends on how strict the state is or the city is. So, and then some of them, you just become like more of a private club, and the rules are a little bit different for you, or your liquor license might be a little bit more expensive. So it just depends on the state. And we kind of focus on the states we're focused on, the cities we're focused on are really, they don't really have too many of those issues. We're focused on kind of the easier, faster growing cities that, alcohol and getting a liquor license or a beer wine license is really easy.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's part of the model. So staying up on that would probably be pretty important. So from a team perspective, right? Because cool. You guys you're the franchisor. I always get franchisee screwed up. So you're the franchisor, correct?
Yeah.
What does that look like from an internal team perspective to support all of these other franchisees that you are bringing onto the team? Like, what does this internal team look like, and how do you support them to the level that is needed or better or beyond?
Yeah. That's definitely something I've learned throughout franchising. Is one of the biggest kind of I'd say complaints franchisees have is that the franchisor is never supporting them enough. And it's funny, right? As a franchisor, you're never going to do enough. When your franchisees are successful, it's all them, and when they're not successful, it's all your fault. But that's just the name of the game, and we're okay with that. And especially with us doing the digital marketing, we handle all digital marketing. It puts a little bit more pressure on us, but I just hired a president who's been in franchising for 8+ years, took a brand from one location to 200+ locations. He started this month. And then we have a director of operations, and he's got a team below him, a director of marketing. He's got a team below him. I also have a fractional CMO who's been in franchising for 15+ years. Then I have my director of sales and events, who is focused on corporate events, corporate parties. Her team supports our franchisees as well. And then I have our controller, accounting team. And then we have our director of development, franchise development and sales, which is kind of the sales process for franchisees that are interested in becoming on the brand.
Yeah. All right. So let's dive into that for a second here. How do you guys vet and ensure that the franchisees who are applying, who want to come on board with you, are the right fit?
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, right? So initial call is more of just feeling the vibe, right? Culturally, they got to be a good fit. We always kind of ask certain questions that see if they're an ultimate host. Do they like to go out and party and drink, or do they actually like to host people and be that kind of ultimate host? And we push more for the ultimate host and less for the person that wants to party and just have a bar so they can hang out and drink at it. So I think a lot of our focus is on leadership and just personality and vibe. And the business itself is very easy to run, but you're going to have a really good leader and somebody that understands the importance of service and leadership, and then just customer experience. So initial call is with Travis, our sales director, and more of vetting them out, just having that initial conversation, make sure that financially, ask them questions financially to see if they can actually afford it. And then if they get to the next stage, they'll have a conversation with our president and myself, and we'll go a little bit deeper. Mm-hmm. And then if we say, hey, we like these guys or girls, let's fly them out. They'll fly out to Charlotte. They'll spend a weekend with us, usually about a day with us. And then the other time is just seeing the location, meeting the team, checking out the area, and saying, how do we recreate this kind of location in our city? And then if all is well and we feel comfortable, we'll award them a franchise, and then they'll go through the legal process. They'll have their attorneys review our FDD. If there's any red lines or anything that they want changed, we'll discuss with our attorney, and then the ball gets rolling. And we support them from the time they sign to the moment they open their doors all the way through their entire 5-10 years.
Cool. I love it. So you use a very specific term in the franchise space, FDD. Could you break that down, what that is for the listeners here, and kind of briefly talk about the importance of that document for all parties involved?
Yeah. So the FDD is a franchise disclosure document, and that document never changes, right? So if there's anything that an attorney wants changed in it, we create a franchise agreement. So those addendums go into the franchise agreement. So if there's anything specific that needs to be changed, whether if it's a territory, they want a bigger territory or bigger range, so somebody can't open one closer to them, all that gets done in the franchise agreement. The FDD is basically everything that you can, 200+ pages that you can think of. And a lot of it is just boilerplate legal things. And almost every franchise, from McDonald's to Jersey Mike's to everything, have what we have in ours. And then there's the specifics for ours, like our item 19, that's going to go over financials for every location. Our item 7, which will tell you how much you're going to need to invest to open up a location. And it breaks down all those. So it's just kind of, I like to say, almost like a little bit of the Bible for the business and what you're getting into. It's your agreement that you're signing, basically, to get married to us.
Yeah, love it. So here's a question for you. I know that there are folks who specialize in finding franchisees placements, right? So like, hey, I'm interested in opening up a tap room or some kind of franchise. I've got money in the bank, financially I'm vetted, I'm good there. But I'm interested, and I don't know necessarily what is available out there in the franchise landscape. And if folks who listen to this podcast, if you've never looked in that arena before, you should go check it out, because there's more companies that you're very familiar with that are franchised than you ever imagine. But what does this look like for that person? Or, back to my question here. Are you using any third parties to help you find placements to come into, basically be a member of Hoppin'?
Yeah. That scene has kind of changed a little bit. We actually use Franchise Sidekick. Great guys, great team, great women. Franchise Sidekick is a broker. They're a broker service. So we call them a broker, but if you were looking for a franchise, you would call them a consultant. So they consult you for free. And then they'll present you, after speaking with you, understanding your finances, they'll present you 4 or 5, maybe 6 different franchises that they want you to vet, understand, speak with the founders. And they'll introduce you to us if Hoppin is a good fit, if they think it's a good fit. And we'll basically, they'll give us leads, they'll vet it out. They kind of do that front end version of us vetting out for us. And then we pay them a commission. So for the franchise candidate, they don't pay anything to that consultant. They work for free for you. And I think it's, a great way to go into franchising, just if you are really unsure of like, what is the best fit for me? And then understanding that, there's hundreds and hundreds and thousands of different franchises that you can look at. And we always say, like, make sure you fully vet out your options, because we don't want you to just say this Hoppin's the one and then jump into Hoppin and then look back and say, I wish I would have looked at a few others. We want you to really be confident that you're jumping in with the right team and the right brand.
Yeah, for sure. Makes a lot of sense. And I guess from your perspective, it makes a lot of sense to use a broker. I mean, if it's done correctly, that team is going to bring you over qualified vetted leads already, right? So if they're bringing someone to you, they've already done a lot of the back end work, checked them out, made sure that certain things were in place, and they think that they're a good fit for Hoppin or your brand, which I think is pretty cool. And flip the script too from the person who's looking to become the franchisee. It's a win-win for them, because like you said, they're not laying $1 out of their pocket, right? The consultant is going to do the legwork and helps them find it's kind of like, it's real. That's what it really is. It's like working with a realtor.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I'm looking for a home in this area. This is my budget, and these are some of the styles of homes that I like. Go find one for me. Yeah. Right. And you don't pay them. They get paid through the transaction, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly like a realtor. And I think one of the beneficial things of consultants is they've been doing it. Most of them have been doing it for a long time, and they know the ins and outs of franchising, what questions to ask, and just to present you with a lot of information and educate you on franchising before just say you had we're like, oh, Hoppin's a great brand, and you fill out our form online, and then you speak with our sales team, and you don't know anything about franchising. So I think it's definitely a win-win for both parties.
Yeah, for sure. What's the goal here with Hoppin? What are you trying to do?
Yeah, my goal is over the next 4 to 5 years, definitely have some PE excitement and get some conversations going. I think I can get it to 40, 50 locations by then, another 40, 50 in development, and probably either take most of the chips off the table, if not all the chips off the table, and then kind of get into more of my own investment things and kind of maybe my own VC or private equity.
Nice. I like it. Question here. So let's say a franchisee comes to you. As do you process, you go through multiple steps of the interview, blah, 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 your background check, whatever it is, that's part of your process. You green light them. I'm assuming that they're going to pay you money pretty much at that point, whatever your franchise fee is. Okay.
Yeah.
Or maybe a portion of it. They're going to give you money, exchange money. From the point to the day that they open the location and are ready to serve, how much time is typically in between?
Yeah. So as soon as they sign the FDD, they stroke us a check, or they wire us money for $60,000. That's their initial franchise fee. At that point, we start the process of finding real estate. Once real estate is fine, they work with our architect design team. They'll make sure that the actual real estate fits the actual model that we need. Every location can be a little bit different. And then they'll start on the full schematic plans and full design, get permits. So overall, once FDD is signed, to opening your doors could be anywhere from 14 to 18 months usually. But once permits are in hand, it's 3 to 4 months to get construction done.
Got it. So is that the only money that they have to lay out, or are they responsible for the construction as well?
Yeah, that's the first money they'll lay out. And then after that, once they sign a lease, they'll have their security deposit or last month's rent. Yeah. And they'll have to pay deposits for the construction piece, architects, design. So they fund the entire process. It's to open up a Hoppin, it's anywhere from right around 1.2 to around $2 million. before you get any tenant improvement allowance back from the landlord. So it'll fall between that 1 to 1.6 range after you get money back. But yeah, it's all on them to finance.
Yeah, got it. Well, I mean, it's from your perspective, it's a pretty smart business model. You guys you've done it. You've proven that it works. I'm sure you've got financial proof that it works too. And then it's like, hey, cool. You come in, you pay us $6,000, you become part of the family, and we give you our playbook. And then it's up to you to go run the playbook. Oh, and by the way, you got to do this within our rules.
Yeah. To an extent, I'd say the only thing that differentiates us than most franchisors is we handle all the digital marketing, right? The marketing world has changed digitally, and just the algorithms on social media, they change constantly. So we have a team that's built in with us at HQ that focuses on that. And then we work with our franchisees individually, weekly and monthly, to discuss their plan, whether it's 90 days is usually what we discuss. And I think that's a little bit different than most franchisors, because they kind of put that marketing into the franchisee's hand, and marketing it's an animal. So if you're putting some marketing in somebody's hands that never done it, I mean, you can't expect them to be successful. But it's a double-edged sword for us, because if the location isn't as successful as they think they should be, they're leaning on us. So we put a lot of pressure on them to be in their market and focusing on their kind of boots on the ground and corporate relationships and parties, and driving that traffic during those slower times, and being actually the word of mouth in their community.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a fine line, a dichotomy between your traditional, we'll call it boots on the ground guerrilla marketing, versus your digital marketing, which is what is prevalent today. Especially with a retail location, I think it's important that there's a bit of both, in my opinion. If we went just this digital marketing route, which a lot of people would prefer to do because it's easier, you kind of sit behind a computer and just make all your shit happen, versus you or the franchisee having to actually go out there and shake hands, kiss babies, and give out free samples of, well, I don't know if you guys can give out free samples, but
right.
You get what I'm saying, though.
Yeah.
I think it's just really important that there's a little bit of both going on, and I think you guys probably have that nailed at this point too.
Yeah, you got to have the top down with the digital, and then from the ground up in the community. And we realized how important that is, especially now more than ever, with just being competitive in the market we're in. People aren't spending as much money as they were 2021, 2022, 2023. The economy is definitely hitting their pockets a little differently. So you just really got to be creative and find ways to drive people into the door.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing that a lot in what I do. I see it a lot with the clients who I serve as well. Like, money just isn't as free flowing as it was, right? Post 2020, 2021, post pandemic crap, especially with all that EIDL money and crap going around. So it's definitely put a damper on some people's spending. I'll tell you that. But yeah,
can't go to the grocery store. Yeah, can't go to the grocery store for less than $100. It feels like lunch is $50,
dude. Don't get me started. I got 7 kids. Okay, so wow. Run for me is wild. It's wild, dude. It's usually $400 to $600 per week at Sam's Club or Costco, and then there's 2 to 3 trips to a local smaller supermarket, and they're typically $150 to $250 pop.
Dang. 7 kids. I might have to get some advice from you. My 9-month-old, we just got one.
Yeah. It's awesome though. It's I enjoy them. It's a lot of work, and it's changed me, because, like, backstory on me here, and I'm just super transparent about it. I got divorced. Started the divorce proceedings about a year and a half ago, and just finalized maybe 2 months ago. 3 of those kids are mine, and I found myself in a new relationship, and guys would be like, yeah, I'll never get involved with a woman who's got kids, right? Like, yeah, bullshit. When things right. And the woman I found, and who found me, she's got 4 amazing, beautiful daughters, and like, they're a package deal. Like, I couldn't take mom without the daughters, and vice versa. So, like, hey, I willingly agreed to this, and I got 50-50 custody with my kiddos. When we have them, and they all get along great. They play, they're all around the same ages. But man, like I had no idea. That's just not true because I ate like a freaking animal as a kid too. But these little kids, man, from 13 all the way down to 6, they just eat nonstop, and it's cool. I thoroughly enjoy being around them, and it's forced me to level up as a man, as a dad, as a spouse. In my last relationship, my ex-wife and I had this agreement where it was like, hey, because our second kid we went for wound up being twins.
Oh,
That was a shocker. So it was like, hey, you're going to retire from work and you're going to stay home and take care of the kids, and I will worry about the rest. And that was the agreement that we had. And it carried on and it worked well until it didn't. Right. And for many, many years, like I just handled business. I handled making money. I handled taking care of the house, that kind of shit. And my ex handled taking care of the kids, cooking the meals, getting lunches together and all that stuff. And I knew going in or getting out of that relationship and having 50-50 custody with my kids, like that's going to fall on me when they're with me. Whether I'm in a new relationship or not, I've got to level up. I've got to man up here and start taking care of some more of the stuff at home that I've quite intentionally been avoiding for several years. Right. So, man, I don't hate it. My mom came down to see us a couple months ago, and it was the first time that she spent time in my new home with me and my woman Catherine and her kids, and she really could see that they had met and talked on phone, FaceTime, Zoom, all that kind of crap, but she had never met and spent time with us in our home, and she came down and saw it, and she made a couple comments, not in a bad way, but like, he seems different, right? And like I am, because I have to be, and the reason I'm telling the listeners this, like, cool, like I have no problem divulging what's going on in my personal life, right? But at the same point in time, these lessons carry over into the business world too, right? You have to be adaptable. You have to be willing and want to change eventually, right? Like for you guys, hey, cash is not flowing the same way it was around 2021, 2022. So we've got to focus more on the boots on the ground, guerrilla marketing, corporate event marketing than we are just the digital marketing. You've got to be malleable and adjustable depending upon the conditions that surround you, right? And the same shit applies in business, same shit applies in your personal life. Some of the biggest lessons I've learned there.
Yeah, my wife, man, props to her. She owns two bridal shops, one in Miami, one in Charlotte, and she also is a full-time mom, basically. So to be able to watch that, but yeah, definitely having a child made me level up. I was kind of stopped working out, ended up jumping back into the gym, went from 145 to 165, and it was time for me to get back into it. Like, you want to set an example for your child, but not only that, but mentally, just getting back into fitness and starting your day off that way makes everything, business easier, things easier. So having a child definitely made me level back up for sure. Because after 10 years of grinding as hard as I can, and then, just being that father, I think is life-changing. And with my wife owning her own business, is definitely supporting her. How she does both is amazing to me. But yeah, definitely supporting her as a father and being in that role heavily as well.
Yeah.
It's a great thing to have. It's a lot.
It is, man. It totally is. And it's a very similar situation for me. My woman's got a couple of companies of her own. She does some coaching. She's an editor as well. It's actually how I met her. She edited my book a couple of years ago. Tap on top of that, full-time relationship with me. And like you, I'm a hard charger, moving 100 miles an hour every damn day with 100 different projects going on at any given time. Between 4 and 7 kids present in the house 24/7. Just craziness going on. Like, so her keeping all that together, and like now you add and me, this grown giant human, right? And my 3 kids who aren't small either. And it's more chaos and stuff for her to do. There's I won't even say double. It's probably 4 times the amount of laundry in the house with a few extra bodies, and with help who comes in and helps out, but they're not there 24/7. Like we got help who comes in 4 or 5 days a week, but there's still several days, or hey, if help is on vacation, like they were this past week, it falls on us for the week that they're not here. And it's never like I used to be scared of having to level up and push myself doing those things that I didn't want to do because they were uncomfortable. And now it's like, game on, fuckers. Let's roll. Because I
Yeah.
know I'm going to learn something out of this, whether I want to or not.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it makes you into a different man. Both you start to do it, and you really start to grow some respect for your significant other, and understand like, damn, there's a lot of shit you do throughout the day. And it could be just small stuff that seems like nothing to us, like throwing a load of laundry in or doing the dishes, whatever that may be. But you tag that on with having a little one, for you 7, that always needs your attention. And man, by 8, 9 o'clock, I'm like, I don't know how you do this every day. I'm spent. I'm ready for bed.
Yeah, it's true, man. It is true. So I'll tell you what, probably piss some people off when I say this, but it is what it is. I definitely left my marriage, and when I had to start taking care of the kids more myself, I uncovered a couple pieces of respect for the ex that I didn't know were there. Like, I knew she was handling them, but I didn't know how much it actually took until I had to go do it myself.
Yeah.
Right. And like, yeah, cool. And I'll tell her to her face today, like, thank you for doing what you did for all those years, because I know it was a lot of work, and now I understand more and doing more of it over here. So
yeah, especially the way our minds work. The way our minds work is completely different than, I would say, a lot of people in this world. So, to be a parent, our minds are also moving a million miles an hour, thinking about 10, 15, 20, 100 different other things. And if we're not productive in those things, we feel like we're missing out. But then you think about, okay, well, I also have this child that I need to be productive with as well. It's just the word driven different. I think early on, my son was like 3 months old, and I called my wife and I was like, hey, I can't do this, because it was like, I have a 3-month-old. He's amazing, but he doesn't do anything. I'm bored. And I feel like I got 800 things that I could be focused on. So that's where you start to grow the respect, when they do that 5-6 days a week, and you're just kind of out there doing your thing.
Yep. And the first reality check I had around that was 2016, probably 2017-ish, right? All 3 kids were born at that point in time. My twins were less than a year old, probably. And we were still living in New York. My ex-wife goes to me, hey, I'm going to Atlantic City for the weekend with some girlfriends. And like, she hadn't been away in quite some time. And I was like, yeah, you deserve it. I'll handle the kids. Right. And the moment I said that, I like started to panic because I knew I had these 3 kids and an asshole dog at home at the same time. And, still owned and operated a service-based business when I was living up there. And like, man, I got this business to run. I got these 3 kids at home, and I've got this 80-pound asshole one-liner who I love to death, who's as needy as my little kids.
Yes.
And taking care of the house and making sure that everyone's fed and there's not, mac and cheese flung against the wall after dinner. But yeah, man, that scared the crap out of me. And it's one of those things. It's like, oh my God, you're so nervous for it. And then you actually go and do it. You're like, all right, well, it wasn't the hardest thing I've ever done. I don't know if I want to do this every day of my life, but
that's it. It's not hard, but we're not built for that. That's just like people in your businesses, right? Like hiring a president. I'm not built to do the things that he can do, and he definitely can't do the things that I can do, right? He's not the visionary. He's never going to start his own company, and I'm never going to be the implementer and the guy that puts those systems and processes in place that we need to build a great foundation and continue to grow. So it definitely, you really start to understand like kind of who people are and what seats they should be in. And at stay-at-home dads, stay-at-home moms, the amount of respect I have for them, I would go crazy. It's not that I couldn't do it, but it's just not the way I operate.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. 100%. Dude, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you coming here today, Rich. You want to share with us best place to connect with you or maybe learn more about Hoppin'?
Yeah, if anybody's interested, just chat with me. I love obviously answering questions, mentoring, whatever it is. It could be about franchising. It could be about Hoppin'. If you're interested in Hoppin', you can find me on LinkedIn, Rich Moyer, or you can just hit me up on Instagram, Rich_Moyer. But if you're interested in actually learning more about Hoppin' and want to check out our website, you can go to ownahoppin.com or just visit our consumer website, hoppinbrands.com, and there'll be a franchising link on there as well.
Cool. Yeah, we'll make sure we get all those links dropped into the show notes as well. So if you folks are checking this out, you're heading over to YouTube, you're heading over to Spotify, Apple, any of the main spots, we'll have those was all dialed in and linked up, shown so that way people can connect with you. Man, truly appreciate you. Had a great conversation, and I wish you nothing but success with this brand and taking it off and going to the moon with it, brother.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you having me on. Enjoyed it.
Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast. Make sure you head over to stepitupentrepreneur.com and make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode of the Step It Up Entrepreneur Podcast.